Right, Judy, we're good to go.
Good. Thank you, Mary. Welcome everyone. Lovely to be with you another Monday, another Benedict's Well, another time of drinking deeply. Just been talking about water. For an Australian to hear there's no charge for water in Ireland is outrageous. But here we are drinking deeply from the well of silence, and the well of the reflection that Stefan will share with us after meditation. Thank you all for being here. It is indeed a joy. So we begin our prayer. O God, come to our assistance.
O Lord, make haste to help us.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever will be, world without end.
Amen. The reading for today, Stefan has chosen, is from the Rule of Benedict, chapter 48, on the daily manual labour. Benedict says, idleness is the enemy of the soul. Therefore, the sisters should be occupied at certain times in manual labour, and again at fixed hours in sacred reading. To that end, we think that the times for each may be prescribed as follows. From Easter until the calends of October, when they come out from prime, 7 a.m. in the morning, let them labour at whatever is necessary until about the 4th hour, 10 a.m. And from the 4th hour until about the 6th, midday, let them apply themselves to reading. After the 6th hour, having left the table, let them rest on their beds in perfect silence. Or if anyone may perhaps want to read, let her read to herself in such a way as not to disturb anyone else. Let none be said rather early, at the middle of the 8th hour, about 2:30, and let them again do what work has to be done until vespers. And if the circumstances of the place or their poverty should require that they themselves do the work of gathering the harvest, let them not be discontented, for then are they truly monastics when they live by the labour of their hands, as did our fathers and the apostles. Let all things be done with moderation, however, for the sake of the faint-hearted. Heavenly Father, open our hearts to the silent presence of the Spirit of your Son. Lead us into that mysterious silence where your love is revealed to all who call. Ma, Ra, Na, Tha. Come, Lord Jesus, come. This evening we have Stefan talking to us about living for others, finding space for ourselves. And it's the second part in this talk tonight, finding space for ourselves. And we all know Stefan very well. He's an author, an academic, and he's the National Oblate Coordinator in Ireland and has edited our Oblate newsletter for many years, the Via Vitae. So Stefan has been around the community for a long time, and he has a great familiarity with, he's very familiar to us, and he's familiar with the teachings of the community and familiar with the rule of Benedict. And I think it's his gift that Stefan brings a great relaxation and freedom to these reflections, while very much drawing us into the essence of the rule of Benedict. So we look forward to hearing Stefan about finding space for ourselves. I think it's an essential element of this way, and we look forward to your reflection and indications on this way of balance and moderation, as Benedict says. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. And greetings to everyone from Ireland. And put it on gallery so I can see you instead of me. Yeah, greetings from Ireland. We have a sunny day today, well, relatively sunny, which is a treat. I chose that reading from the Rule of St. Benedict. Might have seemed a bit obscure, but I was trying to show that there is this sort of balance and moderation in the Benedictine life. That's a sort of average day from Easter till the end of October. So that's most of the year, actually the busiest part of the year. And with the early communities would have been growing their own food and things. So the busiest part, but even then, well, Benedict starts by saying, well, you shouldn't be shy of work. He doesn't want his contemplatives to think that they can get away with not doing the washing up and things. But he then says that he then gives a day which is quite balanced. It seems it starts early, but that again is the era. I mean, they had to end early because they couldn't do much by candlelight in the evening. So it starts early, but that's normal for the time. But then he gives a couple of hours of work early in the morning, and then from of course, it's in the rule you have it in the Roman hours, and that sometimes that's why I put in the reading our usual hours in order to make it a bit clearer, so that from 7 till 10 they have 3 hours of work, and then from 10 to 12 they have 2 hours of reading. And I think that's important to remember. Sometimes certainly in my life, the reading can get squeezed out by the busyness. And that's quite a generous portion of the day that Benedict is giving to the monks and in the winter times, he actually gives more, but this is in the busy times. And he's giving at least 2 hours there to reading. So maybe it might be a Benedictine practice to try and build in, like we do with our meditation, try and build in times of reading in the day as regular, because they can easily get, I know in my life, they easily get squeezed out, and I've had to make a big effort to try and get back to reading. So I choose novels in order to be motivated, read something nice. But the reading, so that's 2 hours, and then they have their lunch, which is the main meal. They're good Mediterranean people. They have their main meals in the lunchtime, and then they have a good siesta. You kind of think, oh, wait, Benedict's not going to let them off, but he does let them off for quite a long time. If they have lunch at midday, say probably had some prayers before, so maybe say 1, they finish lunch. But from 1 to 2:30, they've got an hour and a half of siesta. Now that's quite moderate to give that, not driving them too hard. And he also says that that can also be a time of reading. If people don't feel tired, they can take a time of reading then as well. So all in all, the busiest time of the year, would have 1.5 hours of reading time if you wanted. So he's giving them time for themselves, basically. Not all work, not all things to do. And then after the 8th hour, that's after middle of the 8th hour, it's about 2:30, they work again until Vespers, which would be 5:30, around then. So they'd have to go back to work, and then the evening would be again resting in the evening with quiet time after Compline. So you've got a sort of a sort of moderate day there, but also the thing I was trying to point out was he gives time. We have time for ourselves, and I think for the Benedictines, our practice as meditators, we learn to build in our meditation time and every day as time for ourselves. Now, we can't be just sort of working all the time, and so we can build in reading, and we build in rest as well. There's nothing wrong with having a holiday or having a siesta, taking rest. So it's all part of living a good, balanced life. So this second part of the talk is finding space for ourselves. I don't know if you remember the first part, but it was all about living for others and not thinking about us, putting the others first, which is a very important part of the Benedictine spirituality, putting the others first and thinking about others. But also important is giving space for ourselves. I'm going to show a few slides, hopefully not too many. I'm prone to getting carried away with slideshows. So I hope this is moderate. So like in the first talk, I'm going to be basically taking examples from the life of Benedict and from the Desert Fathers and Mothers, which was the tradition that he came out of. And the Desert Fathers and Mothers had this saying, go sit in your cell and your cell will teach you everything. Now, the Benedictine, maybe their cell was there. These early communities they lived in, they actually were in dormitories, if you read the rule. So they didn't actually have cells. But maybe their cell was their bed, I was thinking. So they go and lie on their bed and they have some peace and quiet. And so we find ourselves in these times when we can just be by ourselves. So Benedict was, in giving those times of quiet, he was following the desert tradition. Oops. How do I forward this? Second. In the life of St. Benedict, he actually started as a hermit. Well, he started as a student in Rome, but then he left his student life to become a hermit. So Benedict realized that it was key to be able to spend time by yourself, because it's with yourself, because that's where you learn about yourself and you learn about God as well. And in the life of St. Benedict, written by Gregory the Great, the dialogues, he has this sentence. Benedict, this is in Subiaco, when he was in Subiaco at the beginning. There's the cave at Subiaco, the picture there on the right. Gregory says, Benedict lived alone with himself, but under the gaze of God. So having time for yourself, being with you, spending time, just being, but being in the presence of God as well. Maybe that's why Benedict calls the reading time sacred reading. Maybe he wasn't encouraging novels, although Pope Francis has recently come out with saying, encouraging people to read poetry and novels, which I think is great. But it's important that we're not just spending the time maybe just reading the newspapers or scrolling the internet or whatever. It's a sort of quality reading, which kind of makes us think, makes us ponder, and makes us get to know what it is to be human. And maybe that's why poetry and novels can be great, because they're about what it is to be human. And so yes, it's also guarding that quality of reading. There's a lot of internet stuff nowadays which can take away that time easily. So this is Gregory the Great. In his comment, he comments on this, how Benedict spent time with himself. He says, how can you be not with yourself? Because you're always with yourself. But Gregory says, every time we're drawn outside of ourselves by too much mental agitation, we are not with ourselves, even though we think we are, because we wander here and there in our minds, and we do not see ourselves. So this is a description of meditation, as we know that when we meditate, we let go of the external things and the internal mental agitation, and we try to learn just to be with ourselves and not let the mind wander. So this quality of being, it's interesting how Benedict in that passage says that they are to lie on their beds in the afternoon when he gives them their generous siesta. He says to lie on their rest and let them rest on their beds in perfect silence. So it's kind of more important for Benedict that they do that than reading. He says if they'd like to read, they can, and as long as they're not noisy about it. But the main thing is to have a good rest and to have an experience of silence. So that's what we know from meditation is the main thing. I've put this in, although she's not a desert mother, but she's a sort of modern desert mother, Edith Stein, contemplative philosopher. And she writes this in her notebook, 1920, even before she became a Christian. To move these pictures up. Sorry. She writes this in her notebook, that she says there's a state of resting in God. Maybe this was Benedict's siesta. An absolute break from all intellectual activity or manual activity. She happened to be a philosopher, but you need a break from your work. When one forms no plans, makes no decisions, and for the first time really ceases to act, when one simply hands over the future to God's will. So that's probably Benedict's siesta. You really cease to act, let it go, have a good rest, and let go of all our work. Edith Stein says in a letter later, when she'd become a Christian by this stage, she says, the only essential is that one finds, first of all, a quiet corner in which one can communicate with God as though there were nothing else. And that must be done daily. So it's the daily practice of meditation, in which we are with God as if there was nothing else. We let everything else go. So coming back to the Desert Fathers and Mothers, Abba Alonius said, this is from the 4th century, Abba Alonius said, if one does not say in one's heart that in the world there is only myself and God, then one will simply not gain peace. It's a challenging saying, because we're meant to think about others, and the rule of St. Benedict does say, consider others, but we also need to be able to let go and just spend time with ourselves and God, because that's, if we're constantly at the beck and call of others, we won't get that peace. And if we're constantly listening to the news or whatever, we also won't get that peace. We have to, at some times in our day, like Edith Stein says, there's only ourselves and God. So this is Abba Sisoes. There he is with his tea, and it says Abba Sisoes was sitting in his cell one day, having his tea, when his disciple knocked on the door to ask the old man something. Abba Sisoes shouted out to him, saying, "Go away, Abraham, do not come in. From now on, I have no more time for things of the world." So you may think this is a grumpy old man, but he's the kind of, like God is, he needs his tea time. He needs his time for himself. And when we need that time, when we say, okay, I'm leaving it. I'm not at everyone's beck and call at this moment. This is my me time, my tea time. This is Amma Syncletica, one of the Desert Mothers, and she noticed how this solitude doesn't involve leaving people. You don't need to be in the desert, but we need to have this interior solitariness within ourselves. So it doesn't mean necessarily being antisocial, or it just means that we need to practice this interior solitude, and in order to do that, we need some time some time for ourselves as well. She says, this is Amma Syncletica. She says, often in the world, we're pushed and rushed around by the world. The world pushes us around, bullies us with its schedules. And the soul is like a ship, she says. It can sink either when great waves break upon it from the outside, when the dramas of life break upon it. At the same time, it can sink because the hold is too full. There's too much there's too much going on inside us, and we need both the pressures of the world and the build-up of the inner world. We need this practice of meditation to make sure that doesn't happen so much to us. Yeah, sometimes the tasks get build up. So the soul is like a ship, it can sink if gets too much. So we need to have our times of meditation when we say no to these tasks, at least for some time. We just say no, this is meditation time. So this is well, this isn't Amma Syncletica in her, but this is someone following Amma Syncletica's advice. So Amma, she says, so we must direct our souls with discernment. Things in the world may indeed distract us, but most of what keeps us from peace is the interior onslaughts of our thoughts. So it's not really the external things that are keeping us from peace. It's the busyness of our minds, the agitation of our thoughts, as Gregory says. So we need to take a bit of time, like this fellow, to take it easy. When we do a to-do list, like most of us are very busy with life, we need to build in times of doing nothing. And we have to only when we've done nothing and crossed it off the list can we go on to do other things. So, for example, in the morning when we get up, we need to have our time of nothing before we get busy. That's the sort of advice. So make sure your to-do list has the nothing on it. And then with God, all things become possible. So actually we become more productive. We're able to cope with all the demands of life a bit better when we've had that bit of peace in the morning. And in the evening also to have a bit of peace. This is from John Cassian's conferences. I said actually a whole conference on this balance of life in community and solitude. There's a whole conference 19 on that. And so he kind of says that the perfection, well, he says the perfection of solitude is to have a bare mind, a mind bare of all earthly concerns. Now that might seem a bit difficult. We have earthly concerns, but at least certain times of the day we should try to have that solitude where our minds are bare of all earthly concerns, to unite us with Christ. And Cassian says our mind must not always be looking to the future. It's this tendency to be out of the present moment, really, where we want to see ahead, which makes the mind agitated. So when Benedict gives his siesta, he says, well, just rest, let go of that future. Most of our work is orientated to future. Cassian says we should be looking towards heavenly things. So this fellow's. Now you might say that this is a bit of the old dualism. There's something of kind of taking the mind off this world, earthly things, and looking a bit, raising our minds to spiritual. But then Cassian balances it by saying, but this contemplation is only part of perfection and is not integral and complete in all respects. For a person is whole and complete when, by God's gift, they endure both the silence of solitude in the desert and the challenges of their brothers and sisters with whom they live, with equal greatness of soul. So he says that you need that, but also you need in order to be integral and complete, we need also to be able to live with others and kind of take our responsibilities in life. So they're the two sides we need to hold together. I've only got 5 minutes. I better. So our work is important as well. What the way we serve others in one way or other, or serve the planet. But the work is can be stressful. That basically we have these all these things, the life pressuring us, and that's why we need the meditation, is to be not get this will happen all the time, every day, but not to be overwhelmed by it. This poor fellow. I'm going to skip through these slides. I think I got carried away with demonstrating the what with the state work can get us into. This poor fellow has had computer troubles. It happens to me, and this lady as well. So we can make a real mess of our work as well. But anyway, so this is Abba John. At the end of the day, Abba John returned in the evening from the harvest, or when he had been with the brethren. He gave himself to prayer and meditation and psalmody until his thoughts were re-established in their proper order. So at the end of our day's work, we've been through all that stress, and we have our evening meditation to bring our thoughts into their proper order again. That was Abba John's practice. And then it says, so coming back to his cell, Abba John was able to rest and to begin the next day like a new life. So our evening meditation helps us to let go of any stress and to be ready for the next day. As the Desert Father says, many of their sayings are about kind of making a new beginning each day, a new beginning. Now, have I got a couple of minutes? Very quickly, five steps for finding space for yourself. So this is just from the Rule of St. Benedict, just to conclude. Get some quiet time each day. As Benedict says, silence should be sought at all times, but particularly at night. This is an example of a monk who spends his life complaining about his poverty. So they give him a vow of silence. Anyway, so get some quiet time each day. Also quiet from the news. A lot of the news is complaining about things. So get some quiet time from that. Live locally. Sometimes our busyness is not being at home. We're away too much. These shopping centres. I don't want to be too anti-shopping centres, but the rule says that basically everything should be local, and it's not good to roam too far for things. So kind of get to know your local shops, live locally. Anyway, it's maybe another advice for finding space for yourself. Create a rhythm of the day. This fellow is doing his reading and his work at the same time. So he's managing to do both. There a lot in the rule says about certain times, necessary things have to be done at certain times, not at other times, so that no one is disquieted or distressed in the house of God. So there's a sort of rhythm to the day. Ask for help Benedict often in the rules says help should be given. Oh, silly thing. Help should be given where it is needed, so that with assistance all may calmly perform their duties. And he says at the end of the rule, we should be ready to outdo each other in mutual obedience. So this monk is humble, but he's not he's not using his initiative to help the other one. Anyway, so asking for help, when it can mean that things, instead of things building up as being stressful, we ask for help at the appropriate times so that we can do things calmly. And lastly, enjoy having visitors. Benedict says the abbot must break his fast for the sake of the guest. They're kind of they have a big party basically when the guest comes. So enjoy having visitors. That's in the rule. It's like a big. That's one of the things about. Sometimes we worry about living for others, when actually it's about enjoying others, which is more important. So that's it. Sorry about my jokes. I didn't have time to go through the jokes. This is about fasting. How fasting doesn't mean eating fast food. So that's that.
Thank you, Stefan. Some light-hearted and some quite profound things there that you've shared with us, and great encouragement to take that time alone with ourselves and really dwell in God's presence, ponder what it is to be human. Wonderful people you've drawn our attention to, Edith Stein, talking about an absolute break, handing over to God's will. And then towards the end, just a little bit of a romp there, as you say, with your jokes, and a light-hearted approach, but contains a lot of wisdom still. And so thank you for taking us through that, quite a balance of different approaches to the rule. And I think each of us will find what we need and help us to find that proper order that you're speaking about, and very much in there too about what meditation does for us. I don't think we've had for a while the Paul Harris quote that meditators have 25-hour days, so that we don't lose time, but that we approach every part of our day with equanimity and balance and order, and that sort of infuses everything. Thank you, Stefan. Wonderful. And we'll just finish with our prayer. May the divine assistance remain always with us.
And with our absent brothers and sisters.
Amen. Thank you all. Thank you, Mary. We'll hand back to you to project us forward to next week.
Well, can I add my thanks to Stefan? It was a lovely slide presentation. Quite a lot of people have requested copies of it, but I'll email you with the comments and we can take it from there. Next week we're having our community sharing, and I warmly invite all of you to take part in that. It'll be the usual format with meditation to start with, and then we go into breakout rooms. There is no obligation whatsoever, if you don't wish to speak in these breakout rooms. You can listen to the wisdom of what other people have to say, but it's a very precious time of coming together in smaller groups and getting to know our community better. So I do encourage as many of you as possible to take part in it. The feedback that we get from those that do join is so positive. They find it such a rewarding experience. So please, if you haven't joined in community sharing before, do seriously consider it for next week. And in the meantime, I wish you a happy and blessed week ahead, and I look forward to welcoming you all at Benedict's Well next week. God bless.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thank you, Stefan. You're a wonderful
Everyone,
teacher.
Thank you. Thank you, Stefan.
Yeah, not anymore.
Thank you,
Wonderful.
Stefan. Leave the television in the basement and the phone
Yes.
for the evening. Be at peace. Thank you for the lecture. Now we know what to do. No television advertising to listen to. Thank you. Have a nice week.
Thank you.
More teaching coming, and peace and love. So I do this. It's very kind. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Now I'm gonna go and do this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Sleep
late.
well, Fred.
It's late.
Bye, Magda.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.